In a world of pluralism, a world of many different stories, we're being forced to face the philosophy of non-dualism. Non-dualism is this philosophy that we are both finite and we are also infinite. There is an inescapable kind of, we are on the path we're on, we're in the story we're in, and the infinite part of us recognizes that we are flawed, recognizes that there's many different ways of approaching this problem. There's other people would do different things, maybe better, maybe worse. This is nothing new. Judges have been holding two different stories, two conflicting perspectives as they progress forward towards the truth. They've been doing that for centuries. But it's never been more pressing. If you go into the supermarket now, if you go into your shops, you will try to buy things, but you will have many different perspectives on how you're buying, why you're buying. You're going to have the economics, how much can I afford? You're going to have the health, what's good, what's bad. How many different ways are there of just looking at that? What about the ethics of it? Where are these things coming from? What about the community aspect of it? Am I supporting, am I buying local? And there's many different ways of approaching that. And it's a lot. Because we consume so much media now, gigabytes every day of media, of different voices, different perspectives, we are recognizing just how many aspects, how many angles, how many sides we can kind of approach any problem from. However, the question isn't about non-dualism. That is already tickling at our throats. The water levels are rising. We can all feel it. That is coming whether we like it or not. The question is, how do you forge forward? How do you assert yourself? How do you find the tenacity, the vitality to keep going in life when we are swimming in all of these multiple perspectives? When we are on any given path and at any given time, we are always aware of the fact that there are many different paths, some better, some worse, and geez, we could be the fool. Should we not learn about some of the other paths so that we don't end up being the fool? Wouldn't that make sense? So how do we forge forward? There's a certain bravery involved. There's a certain amount of courage to accept the path that we're on, to accept the judgment that may come. Because the other part of non-dualism isn't just the fact that we are this infinite finite, that we are, the potential is there to take up any different story, but we're on the story we're on, and we can't explore everything. We can't, at some point there's a leap of faith needed. But you see, the other part is that anyone else at any given time could see us in a poor light. Take the 7 deadly sins just for a moment. So you have pride. Yeah, pride's a sin. And it can be a really strong driving force for really narcissistic people, and it can go nasty. It's on the list of sins for a reason. And yet, if you are someone who pursues excellence, if you are someone who aims for perfection, who thinks that what they are at, that they really try to hone their craft, they really try to make it something more than just another throwaway attempt, but they really try to make something that they are proud of. And then they make it and they are kind of proud of it, and that feels amazing and beautiful, and I want my child to be proud of what he does. It's how he comes to be, it's how he becomes a being, is he has certain achievements and he's proud of them. And then he ventures forward. So the problem is to get stuck in pride. But for us, for today, for this video, plurality, non-dualism, anyone passing could see us in a moment, and this person's driven by pride in the nasty way. This person's driven by power in the nasty way. This person's driven by greed because they always want more. Yes. Or is it the case that they are just vital and enthusiastic about life and more of life? Like, yes, let's go on the adventure. Let's go on the hike. Let's go on the, like, whatever else it is. Let's have the conversation. Let's dig deep into our souls and see what comes up. Let's just totally dig deep into the silence of a moment and enjoy that fully. Yes, I want it all. I'm greedy. Our primal motivators are like the real primal sources of energy that we tap into to move us, to motivate, to kind of overcome just the kind of inertia of just there's nothing too bad at the moment. Those things of daring to want more, daring to create, daring to, like, you know, whatever it is. They're never too far from the 7 deadly sins. And there is the old adage that every one of man's problems comes from his inability to sit alone in a room with himself. So, anyway, not to get lost into that philosophical debate. This is why it's difficult to forge forward, because, again, not only are we paralyzed by the multiplicity of choices, of paths, but we are also paralyzed by the multiplicity of judgments on our path. And that's really difficult. So, how do we forge forward? I do have one point after this, but the main takeaway today is, how do you forge forward? Bravery, courage, vitality, have like a relationship with the virtues. I think be willing to make that leap of faith and know that the path you're on is good. It's good enough. It's flawed, because if we are sure of anything, we know that we are humans and we are flawed. Therefore, whatever path we're on, just as a matter of fact, is wrong. So, all the anxiety about that, I get it. But is it good enough? Are you finding a way of forging forward, of zooming out, course correcting, forging forward? Is this, and do you trust that that's towards the good? So the other part of this is like, why is it so paralyzing? And it comes down to basically a value system. It comes down to first principles, really, like, but your map for navigating the world. That's what it comes down to. But we are in a pluralistic society, so it means that we have many different stories. We have the Western story. Hope is what redeems us. It keeps us going. Right now, I'm hoping for better. This world is beautiful. It's good. But in my hope for better, I'm going to light a fire. I'm going to create something that just hasn't been done before. Why? Just because. Because I hope. I dare to hope. I don't simply just accept everything, even though it's beautiful. I have acceptance for it, gratitude for it, 100%. But I dare. You have the East. Hope is the whip that you lash yourself with. Because, like, it's every failed expectation. I hope. It's like, why is life so, like, difficult? Life is suffering. Life is because we hope. Both have a point. We are in a very strange moment in history. So, in our pluralist society, we are looking for some form of common value, some form of shared value. There are some people trying to find this, trying to forge this. I am first going to say that the virtues are the best, because it is Socrates, it is Plato's cave, it is coming out to meet the forms. All of this language is probably mad to anyone that hasn't looked at it. But to think that the virtues are the things that draw you forward, acceptance, authenticity, wisdom, vitality, these different virtues are all things that we want, and that can pull us forward even when we don't have like solid answers. And if you do come along to the dialogos practice, I invite all of you, just message, but you will realize that any one of them is also something that you can't hold on to too tightly, because but you know you want it, and that's a beautiful realization. It's a beautiful relationship. I heavily advise to participate in that and to build that relationship, especially if you're struggling on how to have a faith that calls you forward, have some sort of meeting the unknown with life, and a positive energy, an excitement, curiosity, whatever. I also want to point out then that there are different ways of approaching the value system. There is Piaget's his philosophy of everything coming down to play, so that at the root of everything is the game getting to persist? Or will future generations be able to play? Will your neighbours and people in far off lands be able to continue playing their game? Because everything comes down to play, so therefore that is the sacred thing. And just keep the game going as best you can. Maybe that's the one that motivates you. Then there is Bryan Cranston, I think it is, with his blueprint page on YouTube, and his Don't Die philosophy. Basically, he's trying to put forward a philosophy that the only thing that we can all agree on is don't die. Because maybe you're not a playful spirit, who knows? But to look at each other and say, I don't want you to die, I don't want me to die. To go out into nature and say, I don't want this tree, this plant, I don't want these animals, I don't want them to die. Don't die. Awesome. Ironically, this actually enriches the world a bit, because you get to see the beauty now, because you're just like, oh, it will die. But look at it right now. That's beautiful. This field, this forest, half of it will die. It will look different in 50 years' time when I'm older. Now I have a bit of appreciation for the beauty of it. Maybe, perhaps, might open that door. So it's not a purely pessimistic thing. Grief and beauty, again, they're two sides of the same coin. So that might be a value system that unites all the multiple perspectives, but all the multiple judgments. This is kind of what we're hoping for, to combat the pluralism. Now there are other thinkers. Zach Stein has a new book out, and that is interesting. I haven't got through it. You have Jordan Hall, and he's kind of blueprint for courage, faith, and love, as like a hierarchy of progress towards the mystery, but that courage is the first step. And there are other thinkers around this, so I don't feel like it's just lost. There are people pursuing these different avenues. I would just encourage you to come along to the dialogos practice, build a relationship with something that pulls you forward, even when you don't get a solid answer. Even if we don't have shared values, to allow, to accept other people to have other values within reason. As in, don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, don't murder. There's a few basics that we do want to agree on, but after that, we are all human, we are all flawed, we are all So, again, even now it's hard to forge forward. It's hard to say that some values should be prioritized at all. Perhaps that's the postmodern trap. That's the vacuum. That's nihilism. Ugh, what do we do? Do we naively just kind of like, feck it, I'm going to do what I want to do anyway? Or do we dare have the courage to say, I'm a human, I'm going to do it anyway, but I fully recognize that I could be totally wrong. I fully recognize that I could be the fool. I'm going to try and self-correct. I'm going to try and have the wisdom. I'm going to try and have the, zoom in or zoom out and course correct, but also the zoom in, participate, engage. I am going to do both. And maybe I'll be the fool. Maybe it looks the same, but I think there's a bit more hope in the latter, even if it is a lot heavier. So, with all of that, it's been a while since the last video. That's why this one's a bit longer. That's my excuse for this week. I'll have a new one next week. I hope you're keeping well. I hope the world is opening up to you and continues to do so, so that your horizons are expanding rather than narrowing. Because we do not want your horizons to narrow. That is addiction. You want them to expand and just more, just the moreness of life. That your relationship with the trees around you is starting to deepen. You start to learn more about them, perhaps. Start to learn them at different levels, different whatever else it is. You start to look around at the people around you and you start to learn them at deeper levels, and everything else. Everything is becoming richer. I hope that it is expanding. So, with lots of love, I will see you next week, guys. Until then, bye.